My name is Nyla Crest, and I'm a 38-year-old psychiatrist in Beverly Hills. My world fell apart when the police told me my younger brother, Alex, 34, had died in a car accident. Then, a former patient named Leela came to me, claiming she was pregnant with Alex's child. But the truth was even more horrifying. Leela was the daughter of the powerful Alvarez family, the very people Alex was investigating right before he died. The Alvarez family started threatening me. They left a bullet on my car and sent a picture of my parents' house. They thought I would stay silent out of fear. But they didn't know one thing. Alex had left me a flash drive containing all the evidence of their crimes. I'm a doctor who heals people, but to avenge my brother, I will use this very evidence to destroy them. Patients come into my office with their Gucci sunglasses and their Louis Vuitton bags, sit across from me on my velvet couch, and spill the secrets they will never share with anyone else. They pay me to listen, to guide, to untangle the mess inside their minds. To them, I am calm, collected, always in control. They believe I have the answers because I wear tailored suits, I keep my nails polished, and I speak with a voice that sounds certain even when my heart is trembling. But behind the closed doors of my apartment, I am just Nyla, a woman who sometimes forgets to eat dinner, a woman who leaves half-empty glasses of Chardonnay on the counter, a woman who falls asleep with the TV on because silence feels too much like loneliness. The only person who ever saw both sides of me and loved me anyway was my younger brother Alex. He was 34, 4 years younger than me, and he had this boyish grin that made people trust him instantly. Where I chose stability and a profession rooted in caution, Alex chose chaos. He was a journalist. He lived for the thrill of exposing truths powerful people wanted to bury. Corruption in City Hall, shady real estate deals, drug trafficking rings, Alex was fearless. I used to beg him to be careful. I remember one evening we were sitting in my apartment eating takeout Thai food. I reached across the table and grabbed his hand. Alex, you are everything I have left. I cannot lose you too. Promise me you will not hide things from me. No secrets. He squeezed my fingers and gave me that crooked smile. You know me, I might keep secrets from the world but never from you. You are stuck with me forever, Ev. Forever. The call came on a Saturday morning. My phone buzzed on the nightstand and I answered half asleep. A calm but unfamiliar voice introduced himself as an officer from the LAPD. He asked if I was the sister of Alex Reed. My throat closed. I could barely whisper yes. He told me there had been an accident. My brother's car had veered off Mulholland Drive. It crashed into a barrier and caught fire. They said it was over instantly, that there was nothing anyone could have done. The words echoed in my ear as if they belonged to someone else's story. I sat up in bed, clutching the phone, whispering no, no, no. By the time I hung up, I was shaking so violently that I could not stand. I crawled to the bathroom and threw up. My face in the mirror was pale, my eyes red and wild. I kept repeating out loud, "Not Alex, this cannot be real, not Alex." The funeral happened 3 days later. The church smelled of lilies and polished wood. People I barely knew hugged me, whispered condolences, told me how sorry they were. I nodded and thanked them, but their words slid right past me. I only heard silence. Alex should have been there, standing at my side, cracking a joke about how he hated formal clothes. Instead, his coffin lay at the front, covered in white roses. When everyone left, I stayed behind. I knelt by the grave and pressed my palm against the cold marble. "You promised me forever," I whispered. "What am I supposed to do without you?" The days after blurred together. I returned to work because I did not know what else to do. My patients talked about their anxiety and heartbreak, their cheating spouses and failed auditions. I listened, nodded, took notes, and gave them guidance. On the outside, I was composed. On the inside, I was drowning. Nights were the hardest. I scrolled through old texts from Alex, silly memes, quick notes that said things like "survive today, call you later." I listened to old voicemails just to hear his voice. Sometimes I fell asleep with the phone against my ear. Then details started gnawing at me. The police returned some of Alex's belongings, but not all of them. His phone was missing. His watch, too. The officer mentioned that the brake lines were severely damaged, but claimed it must have been the fire that caused it. Something in me rejected that explanation. Alex had called me the night before he died. His voice had been hurried, almost nervous. He said, "I am close to something big. If anything happens, just remember I love you." I laughed it off at the time, telling him he was being dramatic. Now those words haunted me. Daniel Moore, one of Alex's colleagues from the paper, called me a week later. His voice was heavy. He said Alex had been digging into something dangerous involving a very powerful family in Los Angeles. He did not want to say more on the phone, only promised to meet me soon. Before that meeting could happen, someone else walked into my life and changed everything. Her name was Leela. She was 26, and I knew her well because she had been my patient. She had a history of mood disorders and episodes of depression. She had stopped coming months earlier, saying she was moving away. When she appeared at my office without an appointment, I felt a shiver run down my spine. "Dr. Reed," she said softly, her eyes fixed on mine, "can we talk just for a few minutes?" I should have told her to book through my assistant, but something about her tone unsettled me. I let her in. She sat down across from me, smoothing her skirt with trembling fingers. "I am sorry for your loss," she said. "Alex meant a lot to me." My heart stopped. I stared at her. "How do you know Alex?" A slow smile spread across her lips. "More than you think. I was seeing him. We were together." I felt the blood drain from my face. My pen slipped from my hand. "That is impossible." Her eyes gleamed. "I am pregnant with his child. That makes me family. I deserve my share of what he left behind." For a moment, the room spun. My brother's laughter echoed in my mind. His promise that he never lied to me. The idea that he would hide a relationship with one of my patients, that he would leave me in the dark, it felt impossible. And yet this woman in front of me looked so confident, so prepared. "You need to leave," I said, my voice shaking. She stood and brushed a strand of black hair behind her ear. "You will see soon enough. I will not be ignored." She walked out and closed the door behind her, leaving the faint scent of her perfume hanging in the air. I sat frozen in my chair. My hands trembled. I could not breathe. Somewhere deep inside, I knew this was not grief playing tricks on me. This was the beginning of something darker. The night after Leela came into my office, I barely slept. I kept replaying her words in my head. The way she said she was carrying Alex's child, the way she demanded a share of what he left behind. I told myself she was lying, that it was another one of her manipulations, but a part of me could not silence the question. What if she was telling the truth? At 3 in the morning, I found myself sitting on the floor of my living room with a bottle of wine open beside me, scrolling through photos on my phone. Pictures of Alex and me as kids, birthdays, vacations, the last Christmas we spent together. He looked happy in every shot, mischievous and alive. I tried to imagine him sneaking around with one of my patients, hiding something so important from me. The thought made me sick. The next day, I forced myself into my routine. A shower, coffee, hair pinned neatly, suit pressed. Patients came in and out, talking about their affairs, their insecurities, their panic attacks. I smiled, I nodded, I wrote in my notebook. But behind my calm expression, my mind was screaming. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Leela's smirk. That evening, I drove to Alex's apartment. The landlord had given me keys after the funeral. I had avoided going inside because I was afraid of what I might find. But now I felt I had no choice. The apartment was quiet and smelled faintly of his cologne. Shoes were lined up by the door the way he always kept them. A pile of unopened mail sat on the counter. I walked slowly from room to room, touching the furniture, the books on his shelves, the jacket still hanging over the back of a chair. I opened his desk drawer and found notebooks filled with scribbled notes. Dates, names, addresses. Half of it made no sense to me, but one name appeared again and again. Alvarez. Sometimes it was written in capital letters, sometimes circled. My pulse quickened. In another folder, I found receipts for hotels, meetings, and one scrap of paper with a phone number written in his messy handwriting. I dialed it from his landline, my hands trembling. After 3 rings, a man answered. "Hello. Who is this?" I asked, my voice sharper than I intended. There was silence. Then, "Who is this?" "This is Nyla Crest. I am Alex Reed's sister." The man exhaled sharply. "I am Daniel Moore, Alex's colleague. He told me you might call." I closed my eyes in relief. "I found your number in his notes. He said he was working on something big. Do you know what it was?" Daniel hesitated. "He was investigating the Alvarez family, powerful people, old money, ties to politics, business, maybe even law enforcement. He was close to publishing something that would ruin them, and then the accident happened." My chest tightened. "Do you think it was really an accident?" "I don't believe in coincidences like that," Daniel said, "but talking on the phone is not safe. Can we meet in person?" "Yes, tomorrow evening." After hanging up, I sat in the dark, staring at Alex's handwriting on the papers spread before me. "Alvarez, Alvarez, Alvarez." I whispered the name out loud like it was a curse. The next morning, I received a message from my assistant saying a woman was waiting for me in the lobby without an appointment. My stomach dropped. I knew it was her. When Leela walked into my office, she looked different. Her hair was perfectly styled, her makeup flawless. She wore an expensive dress I had never seen her in before. She smiled as if we were old friends. You should not be here, I said firmly. She tilted her head. I told you I will not be ignored. Alex loved me. He told me things you would not want anyone else to hear. My voice sharpened. Stop this. Alex would never betray me like that. She leaned closer. People keep secrets, even from family. He wanted to protect me, and now I am carrying his child. That makes me part of your family whether you like it or not. I forced myself to stay calm. If you are pregnant, show me proof, medical records, something. Her smile widened. Patience, Dr. Reed, all in good time. For now, I just want you to know that I am not going away. When she finally left, I felt my knees give out. I sank into my chair and pressed my hands against my face. For the first time, I realized I was afraid. Not just of what she might claim, but of what she might do. That night, I called Sophia Hayes, my closest friend and a sharp attorney. She came over with takeout and sat on my couch while I told her everything. Sophia frowned. Nyla, this woman is dangerous. If she files a claim in court saying she is carrying your brother's child, even without proof, it could tie you up in legal battles for years. You need to be proactive. I do not even know if she is telling the truth, I whispered. Then find out, Sophia said firmly. Get her medical records, track her movements. If she is lying, we expose her. If she is telling the truth, we deal with it, but do not let her control the narrative. I nodded, swallowing hard. There is more. Alex was investigating the Alvarez family. His colleague Daniel told me they might be connected to his death. Sophia's eyes narrowed. Alvarez, that name is poison in the city. If Alex was digging into them, that could explain everything. She reached for my hand. Listen to me. Do not face this alone. I will help you, but you have to promise me you will be careful. The following evening, I met Daniel at a quiet diner downtown. He looked exhausted, his tie loose, his eyes bloodshot. He slid a manila envelope across the table. These are copies of Alex's notes. He was convinced the Alvarez family was running a drug distribution network behind their legitimate businesses. He believed one of their members was using mental health patients as couriers because no one would suspect them. I froze. Mental health patients. Daniel nodded. Leila Alvarez, she is the daughter of Victor and Amelia Alvarez. On the surface, she is fragile, unstable. But Alex believed that was a facade, a cover story to make her appear harmless. My mind reeled. She told me she was pregnant with his child. She demanded a share of his estate. Daniel leaned forward. Do not believe her. She is manipulative. And if her family is involved, this is bigger than a simple con. This is about silencing Alex's investigation. As I drove home that night, I felt the world shifting under my feet. Leila was not just a disturbed patient. She was the daughter of the very family Alex had been investigating. When I pulled into my driveway, I noticed headlights behind me. A car parked across the street, engine idling. My skin prickled. I sat frozen until it finally pulled away. Inside my apartment, I locked every window and door. I stood in the dark living room, my reflection in the glass trembling. For the first time, I whispered to myself, someone is watching me. The days that followed blurred into paranoia. My phone buzzed with unknown numbers. At night, I thought I heard footsteps outside my window. And every time I closed my eyes, I heard Leila's voice saying, I will not be ignored. One evening, I found an envelope slipped under my door. Inside was a single ultrasound photo. No name, no date, nothing but a blurry image of a fetus. My hands shook as I held it. Was it real? Was it fabricated? I did not know. I sank onto the floor, clutching the photo, and whispered, Alex, what did you get yourself into? What have you left me to face? I woke up the morning after the ultrasound photo with a pounding headache. My phone had 3 missed calls from an unknown number and 1 voicemail. My stomach turned as I pressed play. The voice was female, low, and deliberate. You cannot shut me out, Nyla. Alex wanted me in his life. You can try to deny it, but I will prove it to you. Do not make me your enemy. It was Leila. I deleted the message, but the sound of her voice lingered like smoke. I could not concentrate, could not eat, could barely even breathe without feeling her presence everywhere. I called Sophia. Is escalating. She left me a fake ultrasound photo, and now she is leaving messages. Sophia's tone was calm but sharp. You need evidence, Nyla. Keep the photo, keep the voicemail. If this becomes a legal case, these will show harassment. I am not afraid of a lawsuit, I said, pacing my living room. I am afraid of her. I think she knows more about Alex's death than she is letting on. There was silence on the line before Sophia spoke again. Then it is time you talk to someone who can dig deeper. I know a detective who owes me a favor. His name is Mark Bennett. He works quietly off the record. He can help. Later that afternoon, I met Mark at a small cafe away from Beverly Hills. He was tall, broad-shouldered, with tired eyes that had seen too much. When he shook my hand, his grip was steady, grounding. "Nyla," he said, "Sophia told me a little, but I need to hear it from you." I told him everything. About the accident, the missing phone, the Alvarez family, and Leela's sudden claim. He listened without interrupting, his jaw tightening only slightly when I mentioned the ultrasound photo. When I finished, he leaned back. Brake lines do not just cut themselves. And the Alvarez family, I have heard enough whispers about them to know they are not clean. If Alex was closing in on something, his death may not have been an accident. "Can you prove it?" I asked. "I can try, but it will not be easy. These people have money, influence, and a network that protects them. If you want me to take this on, you need to be prepared for what I find." I swallowed hard. "I need the truth, whatever it costs." Mark nodded once. "Then we start with the car. I will get access to the wreckage and see what the official report left out." When I returned home that evening, I found a single white rose taped to my front door. No note, just the rose. I stared at it for a long time before pulling it down and tossing it into the trash. My hands would not stop shaking. The next day I had a session with a patient, but I could barely concentrate. I kept imagining Leela in the waiting room, watching me, waiting to strike. After the appointment, I sat at my desk staring at the city skyline until my assistant poked her head in. "Dr. Reed," she said softly, "there is a young woman here insisting she needs to see you. She says it is personal." I knew before she finished the sentence. "Tell her I am not available." My assistant hesitated. "She said you would understand. She said to tell you she has something of Alex." My breath caught. "Send her in." Leela walked in wearing a pale blue dress, her hands folded delicately in front of her. She looked angelic, but her eyes burned with something darker. She sat without asking permission and placed a small envelope on my desk. "I found this in Alex's apartment," she said. "I thought you should see it." I stared at the envelope but did not touch it. "How did you get into his apartment?" She smiled faintly. "He gave me a key. We trusted each other." I felt nausea rising in my throat. "You are lying." "Am I?" she asked softly. "Open it." Against my better judgment, I did. Inside was a photo of Alex and Leela together at a cafe. He was sitting at a table with a coffee cup, looking down at his phone. She was standing behind him, smiling directly into the camera. "This does not prove anything," I snapped. "You could have followed him, you could have staged this." She tilted her head. "Why would I need to stage anything when he wanted me in his life? He told me things, secrets about what he was investigating, things that could hurt a lot of people." My voice shook. "What do you want from me?" She leaned forward, her eyes glittering. "I want acknowledgement, I want respect, and I want what is rightfully mine. Alex promised he would take care of me and our child. If you will not honor that, I will make sure the world knows what he kept hidden." Her words sliced through me. I forced myself to stay composed. "Get out." She stood slowly, her smile never fading. "You cannot bury the truth forever, Nyla. Sooner or later it will come to light." After she left, I collapsed into my chair, clutching the photo. My whole body trembled. I could not tell what was real anymore. That night Mark called me. "I examined the wreckage," he said. "The brake lines were cut clean. Not frayed, not melted. Cut. Someone tampered with that car." My chest tightened. "So it was murder." "Yes," and I pulled traffic cam footage from the night of the crash. A dark SUV was trailing Alex's car minutes before the accident. The plate was registered to a shell company tied to Alvarez Holdings. I pressed a hand to my forehead, trying to steady my breath. "So they killed him. The Alvarez family killed him." Mark's voice was steady. "It looks that way, but we need more. If we go to the police with this now, it will disappear. We need undeniable evidence." When I hung up, I sat in the dark, the city lights glowing through my window. My brother had been murdered, and the woman who claimed to be carrying his child was part of the family who did it. Sleep was impossible. I wandered the apartment until dawn, replaying Leela's words. He told me things, secrets about what he was investigating. If she knew something about the Alvarez operation, she was more than just a manipulative liar. She was dangerous. The following day, I met Sophia at her office. She poured me coffee and listened quietly as I told her everything. When I finished, she leaned back in her chair. "We need to think strategically. If Leela is truly pregnant, we demand proof through legal channels. If she is lying, we expose her. But if she knows details about the Alvarez family, that makes her a liability to them too. Which means she might become desperate." I whispered. "She is already desperate." Sophia leaned forward, her voice low. "Then we use that desperation. Let her think she is in control while we gather evidence. But Nyla, promise me you will not confront her alone again. She is playing a dangerous game and you cannot win it by yourself." I nodded, though in my gut I knew I would not be able to keep that promise. That evening, as I locked up my office, I heard footsteps behind me in the parking garage. I turned sharply, my keys clenched between my fingers like a weapon. A figure stepped out of the shadows. It was Leela. Her face was pale, her eyes wide. "You should stop digging, Nyla. You are making powerful enemies." My voice shook. "Are you threatening me?" She stepped closer, whispering, "I am warning you. If you keep pushing, you will end up like Alex." I froze, my blood running cold. She smiled faintly, then walked away, her heels clicking against the concrete until she disappeared into the night. I stood there in the dark garage, my breath shallow, realizing the truth. Alex had not just stumbled into danger. He had been hunted. And now so was I. The night after the parking garage encounter, I barely made it home. My hands gripped the steering wheel so tightly they ached. Every pair of headlights behind me looked suspicious. Every stoplight felt like a trap. By the time I locked my front door, I was shaking so badly I slid down against it and stayed there for a long time, breathing hard, whispering to myself, "You cannot break, Nyla, you cannot." I left every light in the apartment on. The shadows felt alive. At 3 in the morning, my phone buzzed, a text message from an unknown number. "Stop asking questions. Alex is gone. Let it go or you are next." I dropped the phone like it burned me. I could not sleep after that. By sunrise, I called Mark. "They know I am digging," I said, my voice hoarse. "They are watching me." Mark's voice was calm but edged with steel. "That means you are getting close. Do not let them scare you off. Fear is their weapon." "What if I am not strong enough?" I whispered. "You are," he said firmly. "But you are not alone. Let me help you carry this." Later that day, Daniel called asking to meet. We sat in his cluttered office at the newspaper, papers stacked everywhere, the smell of stale coffee in the air. He looked around nervously before speaking. "Alex told me if anything happened to him, I should give this to you." He slid a flash drive across the desk. "It has all his research. Names, dates, financial records, but it is not safe here. You need to guard it like your life depends on it." I held the tiny piece of plastic in my hand, feeling its weight like a stone. "Do you think Leela knows about this?" Daniel rubbed his temples. "If she does, she is either protecting her family or she is trying to use it against them. Either way, she is dangerous." I nodded, slipping the drive into my purse. "I need to know what is on this." "Be careful," he warned. "If the Alvarez family finds out you have it, they will not stop until they silence you too." When I returned home, I poured a glass of wine and plugged the flash drive into my laptop. Dozens of files appeared. My brother had been meticulous. There were bank statements linking Alvarez businesses to offshore accounts, photos of shipping containers, names of doctors and therapists who seemed to be falsifying patient records. My heart froze when I saw my own name in one of the documents. I opened it with trembling hands. It was a file listing several of my patients, including Leela. Next to her name was a note, "Possible courier. Using therapy sessions as cover. Father involved. Nyla unaware." I covered my mouth with my hand, tears stinging my eyes. Alex had never doubted me, but he knew my patients were being manipulated by someone above them. He had been trying to protect me even as he investigated. That night, I heard a noise outside my apartment window, a scraping sound like metal against glass. I rushed to the window but saw nothing. When I opened it cautiously and looked down, I spotted a cigarette but still smoking on the sidewalk. Someone had been standing there, watching. The next day, I drove to Sophia's office with the flash drive. She scanned the documents quickly, her expression darkening. "This is enough to destroy them," she said, "but it is also enough to get you killed. If they know you have this, you are in real danger." "I am already in danger," I whispered. Sophia placed her hand over mine. "Then we need a plan. We go to the authorities only when we have airtight evidence. Until then, we protect ourselves and we gather more." That evening, I returned to my apartment and found my front door unlocked. My chest seized. I pushed it open slowly, every nerve in my body screaming. The lights were off. My living room looked untouched. Then I saw it. A single wine glass on the counter, filled halfway with red wine. I had not poured it. My voice shook as I whispered into the silence, "Who is here?" No answer. I backed away, fumbling for my phone. But before I could call Mark, a soft laugh drifted from the shadows. "You really should lock your doors tighter." Leela stepped into the light, her dress glimmering, her eyes wild. She lifted the glass and took a slow sip. My throat tightened. "Get out of my home," she smiled. "This feels like home to me. After all, I was close to Alex, closer than you ever knew." "Stop lying," I snapped. "Why does it hurt so much to hear the truth?" she asked, her voice almost tender. "Alex cared for me. He trusted me, and he told me things that could destroy you." I forced my voice steady. "You are sick, Leela, and I will not let you manipulate me." She tilted her head, her smile fading into something colder. Careful, Nyla, you think you are the only one who knows how to play this game, but I have my family behind me, and you only have ghosts. My fear twisted into anger. If your family killed my brother, I will expose them. Every secret, every lie, I will drag it into the light. Her eyes glittered with something sharp and dangerous. Then you had better be ready to burn with them. She set the wine glass down and walked past me, her perfume lingering in the air. She opened the door, looked over her shoulder, and whispered, "See you soon, sister." The door clicked shut behind her. I stood frozen in my living room, staring at the half-empty wine glass, my heart pounding. I realized in that moment that Leela was not just playing mind games. She was daring me to fight her. She wanted to see how far I would go. Later that night, I called Mark. My voice shook as I told him what happened. He was silent for a long moment. Then he said, "She is escalating, which means we are getting close. But if she is walking into your home, that means she feels untouchable. We need to turn the tables." "How?" I whispered. "We make her think she is winning. We let her talk. People like Leela cannot resist showing off. And the more she talks, the more mistakes she makes." I sat on my couch staring at the wine glass. My reflection shimmered in the dark liquid. I whispered, "Alex, I hope I am strong enough to do this." I did not sleep after Leela broke into my home. Every creak of the floorboards, every hum of the refrigerator made my nerves jolt like electricity. I sat at the kitchen table staring at the wine glass she left behind. Her lipstick mark curved against the rim, faint but undeniable, like a taunt. I wanted to throw it away, but Mark's voice echoed in my mind. "Evidence. Do not destroy evidence." So I wrapped the glass in a plastic bag and slid it into the back of my freezer. In the morning, I called Sophia and told her everything. She arrived at my apartment within the hour, still in her workout clothes, her hair pulled back in a messy bun. She looked at me with a mix of anger and worry. "She was in here," Sophia said, scanning the room. "In your living room, drinking your wine. Nyla, this is not just harassment anymore. This is trespassing, intimidation. We need to file a police report." "They will not believe me," I said. "The Alvarez family has half the city in their pocket. Leela will claim I invited her in, that we were talking. Without proof, it is just my word against hers." Sophia sighed and sank into a chair. "Then we get proof. Cameras, recordings, whatever it takes. You cannot keep letting her walk into your life like she owns it." I nodded, though a part of me feared that proof might not matter. That afternoon, Mark called. "I have been digging," he said. "The SUV that followed Alex was rented under a fake name, but I traced the credit card back to a shell company tied to Alvarez shipping. The trail is dirty, but it is there." "Can we use that?" I asked. "Not yet, it would never hold in court. We need something more direct, something from the inside." My voice caught. "You mean Leela?" "Exactly. She is unstable. That makes her vulnerable. If we can push her, she will slip." The thought of manipulating her sent a chill down my spine. But then I remembered Alex's coffin, the way his laugh had been silenced. I swallowed hard and whispered, "Tell me what to do." Mark's plan was simple but terrifying. I would continue seeing Leela, giving her the illusion that I believed her. I would encourage her to talk, to reveal details, while Mark and Sophia worked in the background to tie her words to hard evidence. The next evening, Leela showed up at my office again. This time, I let her in without protest. She settled into the couch like a queen reclaiming her throne. "You are learning," she said with a sly smile. "You cannot shut me out forever." I forced myself to keep my voice steady. "You said Alex told you things. I want to understand. What did he say?" She tilted her head, studying me. "You really want to know?" "Yes," I whispered. Her lips curled. "He told me your patients are not as innocent as they seem. He said some of them were involved in things you would never guess. He promised he would protect me if I kept quiet, but now he is gone." My stomach tightened, but I leaned forward as if eager. "What things, Leela? What were they doing?" She smiled, enjoying the control. "Moving packages, simple errands, a little money here, a little medicine there, nothing anyone would notice, but Alex noticed. He always noticed." I kept my face neutral while my heart raced. She was admitting to exactly what Alex had uncovered. "You know this is dangerous," I said softly. Her eyes gleamed. "Dangerous for you, maybe. Not for me, I have protection." "Your family?" I asked carefully. She laughed. "Of course. My father makes problems disappear. My mother cleans up the mess. I just play my part." Her words sent a shiver down my spine. I realized she was not afraid because she believed she was untouchable. When she finally left, I locked the door behind her and sank to the floor. My hands trembled as I texted Mark everything she said. Within minutes, he called. "That is it," he said. "That is the thread we pull. If we can prove her family is using patients to move drugs, it ties her to the whole operation." How do we prove it? I asked. Surveillance, financial trails, and we keep letting her talk. She will brag more. People like her cannot help themselves. The following days blurred into a routine of fear and strategy. I went to work, smiled for my patients, and waited for Leela to appear. Every time she did, she dropped another breadcrumb. She mentioned a warehouse near the docks. She mentioned shipments that arrived at night. She mentioned a doctor who falsified medical records. Each time I wrote it all down and passed it to Mark. Meanwhile, Sophia worked her legal channels. She discreetly reached out to a judge she trusted, planting the seed that the Alvarez family was under quiet investigation. It was dangerous, but she believed it would pay off. One night, after another tense session with Leela, I returned home to find an envelope on my doorstep. Inside was a photo of Alex taken just days before his death. He was sitting in his car, smiling at something out of frame. On the back of the photo were 3 words written in red ink: "You are next." I sank to the floor, clutching the photo, tears spilling down my face. My brother had died for this truth, and now they wanted me gone too. I called Mark in a panic. "They are coming for me," I sobbed. His voice was calm but urgent. "Listen to me. Do not let them break you. They want you scared. That means they are losing control. You are closer than ever. Hold on, Nyla, just hold on." That night, I sat in my living room surrounded by Alex's notes, the flash drive, the threatening photo. I whispered into the silence, "I will not let them win, Alex. I will finish what you started, even if it kills me." The night after I found the photo on my doorstep, I barely slept. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, the city lights bleeding through the curtains. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Alex's smile on that photo, followed by the words scribbled on the back: "You are next." It felt like a promise carved into my skin. In the morning, I called Mark. My voice was hoarse, shaky. "We have to move faster. They are tightening the noose." Mark sounded steady as always. "Then we move. Meet me tonight. We are going to the docks." I spent the day in a haze, going through sessions with my patients, forcing myself to appear calm. But inside, fear rattled me like glass about to shatter. When the final appointment ended, I drove to the meeting point Mark had given me, a diner off Alameda, close to the industrial district. Mark was already there, sitting in a booth with a cup of black coffee. He looked tired, shadows under his eyes, but his gaze was sharp. He slid a folder across the table. Leela mentioned a warehouse. I pulled records. It's leased under another shell company connected to Alvarez Shipping. Paperwork shows it's supposed to be a furniture storage facility, but nobody stores furniture at 2 in the morning. I flipped through the documents, my pulse quickening. "Are we going in?" He nodded. Carefully, no guns blazing, just eyes. We watch, we listen, we document. If we get proof, we move to the next step. We left the diner and drove separately. The air grew colder as we neared the docks, the smell of salt and diesel filling the night. Mark parked 2 blocks away and I followed. We walked the rest on foot, staying in the shadows. The warehouse loomed ahead, a massive gray structure with rusted siding and a chain-link fence. A single floodlight buzzed overhead, casting a sickly glow. 2 black SUVs were parked outside. Men stood near the entrance smoking, their silhouettes sharp against the light. Mark motioned for me to stay low as we crouched behind a stack of shipping pallets. I held my breath, my heart hammering in my chest. We waited. Minutes stretched like hours, then headlights cut across the lot. A van rolled up slowly. The men at the entrance opened the gate and waved it inside. Mark whispered, "Look at the plates." I squinted. My blood turned to ice. The plates matched numbers I had seen in Alex's notes. He had tracked this same van weeks before his death. The van disappeared into the warehouse. The doors shut. The night swallowed the sound. Mark raised his camera and snapped photos, fast and silent. "That's one link, we need more." Suddenly, a sound broke the silence. My phone vibrated in my pocket. I froze, panic shooting through me. The glow lit up my hand, an unknown number. I killed the screen instantly, but it was too late. One of the guards turned, eyes scanning the darkness. He said something in Spanish to the others. They raised their heads, alert now. Mark grabbed my arm. "Move!" We darted back into the shadows, weaving between pallets, crouching low until we reached the end of the lot. I could hear the guards shouting behind us, footsteps crunching gravel. We didn't stop until we reached the car. My lungs burned as I slammed the door shut. Mark started the engine, his jaw tight. "That was too close." "I'm sorry," I gasped. "The phone, it's not your fault." "They're watching you, they knew you'd come." We drove in silence until we reached a deserted street near downtown. Mark pulled over and turned to me. "They are onto us. That means we cannot afford mistakes. We need to stay ahead of them." I pressed my hands against my face. "They killed Alex for this. They will kill me too." Mark's voice softened. "Not if we are smarter. You are not alone in this, Nyla. I will not let them touch you." The sincerity in his tone made my chest ache. For the first time in weeks, I felt a flicker of safety. When I got home that night, I found another envelope waiting at my door. My hands shook as I opened it. Inside was a single photo of me and Mark crouched behind the pallets at the warehouse. The shot was grainy, taken from above, but clear enough. On the back were the words, "We see you." My legs nearly gave out. Someone had been watching us even as we thought we were hidden. I called Mark immediately. They were there. They were watching us. Cursed under his breath. Then they are playing with us, but this also means something else. They know you are involved, but they are not moving on you yet. That means they are scared. They want to intimidate you instead of eliminating you, for now. His words didn't comfort me. They chilled me even more. The next morning, I walked into my office to find Leela waiting in the lobby, sitting with her legs crossed, scrolling through her phone. My assistant looked nervous. "She says she has an appointment," she whispered. "She does not," I replied, but Leela stood and smiled sweetly. "Come on, Dr. Reed, let's not make a scene." Against my better judgment, I led her into my office and closed the door. She sat gracefully, folding her hands in her lap. "You look tired, long night?" I forced my face neutral. "What do you want, Leela?" She smirked. "I want you to stop pretending. You think I don't know where you were last night? At the docks, watching things you should?" My throat tightened. "How do you?" She leaned forward, her voice a whisper. "My family sees everything. They own the city. Do you really think you can sneak around without them noticing?" I gripped the edge of my desk. "Why tell me this? Why not just silence me like you did Alex?" Her eyes glinted with cruel amusement. "Because you amuse me, because watching you squirm is more entertaining than ending you. Yet." Her words sliced through me. I forced myself not to flinch. "You're sick," she smiled. "Maybe. Or maybe I am just honest about what it takes to survive in this family." I leaned forward, locking eyes with her. "If your family is untouchable, why are you here playing games with me? Maybe because you're not as safe as you think." For a split second, her expression faltered. Then she laughed softly. "You have more fire than I thought. I like that." She stood and smoothed her dress. "Enjoy your day, Dr. Reed. I will be in touch." When the door shut, I finally let out the breath I had been holding. My hands trembled so violently I could barely dial Mark's number. "She knows," I whispered when he answered. "She knows about the warehouse." Mark's voice hardened. "Then we push harder. She is cracking. The more she talks, the more rope she gives us to hang her family with." That night I lay awake thinking of Alex. His laugh, his stubbornness, his unshakable sense of justice. I whispered into the darkness, "I will finish this, Alex, for you, no matter what it takes." But even as I spoke the words, fear clawed at my chest. Because deep down I knew Leela was right about one thing: they saw everything. And sooner or later they would come for me. After Leela walked out of my office the last time, leaving behind that chilling smile of hers, I felt something inside me splinter. The air in my office still smelled faintly of her perfume, heavy and cloying, and I couldn't shake the feeling that she had left part of herself behind, like a stain I couldn't scrub out. I sat there for nearly an hour after she left, staring at the door, waiting for her to come back. My mind was racing with every word she had said, every cruel little hint, every taunt. She wasn't just trying to intimidate me. She was playing with me. She wanted me unbalanced, doubting everything, second-guessing even my own memories of Alex. By the time I drove home, the sun had already set, and the city lights looked strange, almost sinister, like a stage set for someone else's play. When I stepped into my apartment, I froze. The silence felt wrong. I walked from room to room, checking locks, touching light switches, opening closets. Nothing was out of place, and yet I couldn't shake the sense that someone had been there, watching. I poured myself a glass of wine, but it sat untouched on the counter as I paced the kitchen. My phone buzzed, a text from Mark. "Are you safe?" I typed back with shaking fingers. "For now." 2 minutes later he called. His voice was steady, like stone. "I can hear it in your voice. She came again, didn't she?" "Yes," I whispered. "She knows about the warehouse. She knew where we were. She taunted me, Mark. She said her family sees everything." There was a long pause before he spoke. "Then she is slipping. The more she talks, the more she reveals. That's when she's most dangerous, Nyla, but also when she's most vulnerable." "I don't feel like she's vulnerable," I said. "I feel like I'm the one being hunted." "You are," he admitted quietly. "But you're not alone. Let me come by." An hour later, Mark arrived at my apartment carrying a small black bag. He moved through each room methodically, checking windows, doors, corners. Then he opened the bag and began unpacking tiny cameras, small devices no bigger than a coin. "What are those?" I asked, hugging myself. "Eyes," he said simply. "If they're watching you, then we're watching them. I'm wiring this place, your car, and your office. Every time she comes, every time anyone gets too close, we'll have it recorded." I sank onto the couch. The thought of cameras everywhere made me uneasy, like I was surrendering my privacy. But then I remembered the rose on my door, the photo of Alex, the wine glass Leela left behind. Privacy was already gone. Mark crouched in front of me. His eyes were softer now. I know this feels invasive, but it's protection. Right now, we need proof. Without proof, everything is just words, and words won't bring down people like the Alvarez family. I nodded slowly. Do it. As he set up the devices, I watched him move with careful precision. He wasn't just a detective. He was a man who had lived in shadows, who understood danger in ways I never could. For the first time in weeks, I felt a flicker of safety, like someone was holding the ground steady beneath my feet. After he left, I sat on the couch in the glow of the city lights, whispering to myself, "Alex, I'm trying. I swear I'm trying." The next morning, Sophia called me into her office. When I arrived, her desk was buried under papers and printouts from the flash drive Alex had left behind. She looked up at me with tired eyes but fierce determination. "I've been combing through his files," she said. "Leela's medical history doesn't add up. Different doctors, inconsistent records, signatures that don't match. It's a patchwork. I think it's all fabricated." My stomach turned. Fabricated how? As in, fake diagnoses, made-up episodes. She has built a shield for herself. If anything ever happens, she can claim she's unstable, she can claim diminished responsibility. She's been playing the system from the beginning. I sank into a chair, my hands trembling. So she's not who she says she is. "No," Sophia said. "She's much more dangerous. And if Alex was right, her family is using that facade to protect her while she plays her part in their business." The realization made me feel cold inside. All those hours she had sat on my couch, pretending to be fragile, vulnerable, broken, it had all been an act, a mask. "What do we do?" I asked. "We keep letting her talk," Sophia said. "That's her weakness. People like Leela need to feel superior. They need to taunt, to brag. If we get her on record admitting the truth, we can break the facade. We can rip the mask off." That evening, like clockwork, Leela returned. My assistant barely looked at me when she announced her, as though even she could feel the tension radiating from this woman. Leela walked into my office like she owned the place, dressed in a sleek black dress, her heels clicking against the hardwood floor. "You look exhausted," she said sweetly, settling onto the couch. "Rough night?" I forced my voice steady. "You seem very confident, considering the pressure you must be under." She tilted her head, smirking. "Pressure? This is nothing. I was raised in chaos." "You think I'm afraid of whispers and shadows? My family has senators on speed dial, judges in their pockets, men with guns who would do anything for them. You can't touch me." I leaned forward slightly, keeping my voice calm. "If you're untouchable, why keep coming here? Why risk so much just to sit in this office?" For the first time, her smirk faltered. She looked away for a moment, then back at me. "Because Alex trusted you. He believed in you, and I want to know why." Her words hit me like a punch. I swallowed hard. "What did he tell you, Leela? You keep saying he shared secrets with you. What did he actually say?" She smiled again, though it was thinner this time. "Enough to know he was playing a dangerous game, enough to know he thought he could expose my family, enough to know he loved me." The last words twisted like a knife in my chest. "Loved you," I whispered. Her eyes glittered. "Yes, and that's why you hate me so much, because you weren't the only person he trusted. You weren't the only one he let in." I gripped the edge of my desk to steady myself. She was lying, I told myself. She had to be lying, but her confidence was terrifying. I whispered, "If you think this gives you power over me, you're wrong." She stood slowly, smoothing her dress. "Power isn't something you're given, Nyla. It's something you take, and I've already taken what matters most to you." She walked to the door, then turned back with that same smile. "See you soon, sister." The door clicked shut behind her. I sat frozen, my heart pounding in my ears, my hands trembling so badly I could barely pick up my phone. I called Mark and whispered everything she said. He was quiet for a long moment, then spoke. "She's close to breaking. She's talking too much. That's when she'll make a mistake. But until then, Nyla, you need to hold steady. No matter how much she tries to rattle you, don't give her the satisfaction." After we hung up, I sat alone in the silence of my office, staring at the couch where she had sat. The place where so many people had poured out their pain and their secrets had become her stage, her theater. She had turned it into a battlefield. I whispered into the empty room, "Alex, I don't know if I can do this without you, but I have to try." The night after Leela told me Alex loved her, I didn't sleep at all. I sat on my couch with the city buzzing outside my window, clutching Alex's old hoodie to my chest. I replayed every memory I had of him, every laugh, every conversation, every time he looked at me with that protective little brother grin. Could he really have hidden something like that from me? Or was she twisting his memory just to torture me? By sunrise, my head ached, but I forced myself into the shower and into my clothes. I had patience to see. I had a life to maintain. Pretending to be normal was the only armor I had left. But the first patient of the morning blurred into the second, then the third. Their voices were background noise. I kept seeing Leela's smirk, kept hearing her words. He loved me. By late afternoon, Mark called. We need to meet, tonight. His voice was urgent enough that I agreed instantly. We chose a small cafe far from Beverly Hills, the kind of place where no one would think to look for us. When I walked in, Mark was already at a corner table with his laptop open, a pile of files spread out. He looked up, his expression grim. I've been going through surveillance near the docks. Same vans keep showing up. Same plates Alex tracked before his death. I cross-referenced with the flash drive. They're moving more than just drugs, cash, weapons, you name it. And they're using patient identities to cover it. My throat tightened. So Alex was right. He wasn't just chasing shadows. Mark slid a photo across the table. It showed Leela standing outside the warehouse, talking to a man in a suit. This was taken 3 nights ago. She's not just connected to them by blood, Nyla. She's actively involved. I stared at the photo until the edges blurred. The woman who once sat on my couch weeping about her trauma, asking for help, was standing in the middle of organized crime. What do we do now? I whispered. Mark leaned closer. We build a trap. She thinks she's in control, but her arrogance is her weakness. We'll stage a meeting, make her believe you're wavering, that you're ready to give her what she wants. She'll slip, and when she does, we'll have it on record. I shook my head slowly. She's dangerous, Mark. You didn't see her eyes last time. She's not just playing games. She wants me broken. She wants to own you, Mark said firmly. But she won't. Not if we stay a step ahead. Later that evening, I called Sophia. I needed her legal mind in the loop. She came to my apartment, her arms full of files, her hair pulled into a tight knot. She sat at my kitchen table, flipping through documents with a sharp gaze. We need leverage, she said. Something undeniable. Right now it's our word against hers, but if we get her admitting involvement, even hinting at it, I can use it. A judge I trust is already on alert, but we can't go in half-cocked. We need her cornered. I rubbed my temples. You want me to let her in again, to let her talk? Sophia looked at me carefully. Yes, but you won't be alone. Mark will monitor, we'll have recordings. You just need to keep her talking. Push her buttons, let her show her real face. The thought made my skin crawl. Sitting across from Leela, pretending to listen, pretending to believe her lies. But I knew they were right. It was the only way forward. That night I sat alone in the dark, staring at the cameras Mark had placed around my apartment. Tiny blinking eyes watching over me, I whispered into the silence, Alex, give me your strength. I'm not sure I have enough of my own. The next morning, Leela appeared in my lobby again, as if she could sense I was about to cave. She wore a cream-colored dress, soft and innocent, but her eyes burned when they locked on mine. My favorite doctor, she said, her voice dripping with mock affection. Can we talk? Against every instinct, I nodded. She settled on the couch, crossing her legs delicately. You've been quiet, almost like you're scared. I forced a small smile. I've just been thinking about what you said about Alex. Her face brightened like she'd been waiting for this moment. He told me everything. He trusted me in ways he never trusted anyone else. Don't you want to know the things he shared? I leaned forward slowly. Yes, I want to understand. Her eyes glowed with triumph. He was close to exposing my family. He thought he was clever, but he also knew I could help him. I told him things no one else could, and he promised to protect me. Protect you from what? I asked softly. From them, she whispered. From the ones who clean up the messes, from my father when he loses patience. Alex thought he could shield me, but he didn't realize how deep this goes. No one escapes my family. I swallowed hard, keeping my face calm even as my stomach knotted. So you knew what they were doing? She smiled faintly. Of course I knew. I'm not stupid. But when you're born into this, Nyla, you don't choose, you play your role, you survive. I forced myself not to look at the camera hidden behind my bookshelf. Her words were being recorded, every syllable. You don't understand yet, she said, her voice low and sweet. You think you can expose us, you think you can drag us into the light, but the light doesn't burn us, it blinds everyone else. She stood and smoothed her dress. I'll be in touch. Don't disappoint me, sister. When she left, I collapsed into my chair, my whole body trembling. I called Mark immediately, my voice shaking. She admitted it, I whispered. She admitted knowing, she admitted playing her part. Mark's voice was sharp. Good, that's what we needed, but it's just the beginning. Now we push harder. After we hung up, I sat in silence, staring at the empty couch where she'd just been. For a long moment, I let myself imagine Alex sitting there instead, his crooked smile teasing me for being so serious. I whispered into the empty room, "I hope I'm strong enough, Alex. I hope I can finish what you started." The morning after Leela's last visit, I woke with the heavy feeling of dread pressing on my chest. It wasn't the kind of fear that jolts you awake like a nightmare. It was quieter, heavier, the kind of fear that seeps into your bones and whispers that no matter what you do, you're already trapped. I moved through my apartment like a ghost. I made coffee but didn't drink it. I stood under the shower until the water ran cold, staring at the tiles, feeling like I could vanish into them. When I finally left for work, the street seemed different. Every car I passed, every face I saw, every pair of footsteps behind me felt like a threat. By the time I reached my office, I was trembling so badly that I had to grip the edge of my desk before I greeted my assistant. She looked at me with worried eyes, but I forced a smile and told her I was fine. I wasn't fine. I was breaking. I sat through 2 patient sessions without hearing a word they said. Their voices blurred into background noise. One woman poured her heart out about her divorce, and I caught myself nodding on autopilot, not remembering a single detail of what she said. When she left, I sat in the silence, guilt crushing me. I was failing at everything, at being a therapist, at protecting myself, at living without Alex. My phone buzzed, a text from Mark. "We need to meet. Tonight. Urgent." That evening I drove downtown, my nerves on edge the whole way. I checked my mirrors obsessively, convinced the same black SUV was behind me for at least 3 blocks. When I finally pulled into the parking garage where Mark told me to meet him, my hands were slick with sweat. Mark's car was parked in the corner. He rolled down the window and waved me over. I slid into the passenger seat, my breath shaky. His laptop was open on the console, files spread across the dashboard. He didn't waste time. I've been digging through surveillance near the docks. Same vans keep showing up, same plates Alex tracked before his death. I matched them with records on the flash drive. Nyla, they're moving more than just drugs, money, weapons, maybe even people, and they're covering the whole operation with falsified patient records. I pressed my hand to my mouth. So Alex was right, all of it. He wasn't chasing shadows. No, Mark said firmly. He was onto something massive. And that's why they killed him. He slid a photo toward me. My stomach dropped. It was Leela, standing outside the warehouse, talking to a man in a gray suit. She looked calm, confident, like she belonged there. The sight made bile rise in my throat. She isn't just connected. She's in the middle of it. Mark nodded. Which means if we catch her slipping, if we tie her words to this place, to these vans, we'll have leverage. But right now it's our word against hers. We need her on record, tied directly to the operation. I leaned back in the seat, staring at the ceiling. She keeps coming back to me, taunting me, breaking into my home. Why? Because she thinks she's in control, Mark said. That arrogance is her weakness. She wants you rattled, begging, broken, but if we play along, she'll give us what we need. I hated the word he used next. You're the bait, Nyla. The word lodged in my chest. I closed my eyes. I'm not sure I can do this, Mark. You can, he said quietly. You're stronger than you think, and you're not alone. I'm watching every step with you. I wanted to believe him. Later that night, I met Sophia at her office. She had her glasses on, papers spread across the desk, a coffee mug forgotten at her elbow. She looked like she hadn't slept, but her mind was sharp. I went through more of Leela's medical records, she said, sliding a file toward me. None of it adds up. Look at this, 2 reports supposedly from the same psychiatrist, written a month apart. The signatures don't match. The formatting is different. Even the letterhead is fake. Nyla, these are forgeries. I flipped through the pages with shaking hands. So her entire history is a lie. Sophia's eyes burned with determination. Yes, and that's what protects her. If she gets caught, she can claim she's mentally unstable, claim diminished responsibility. She can slip through the cracks while her family shields her. That's why Alex had her flagged in his notes. He knew she was a piece of the puzzle. I whispered. So everything she ever told me, every tear, every story, it was all an act. Sophia reached for my hand. It was manipulation, and she's good at it, but now we see her for what she is. I left Sophia's office with the files clutched to my chest, feeling like I was carrying a bomb. When I got back to my apartment, I noticed it immediately. The lock on my door looked scratched like someone had tried to force it. My heart lurched. I pushed the door open carefully, every nerve in my body screaming. The lights were off. The apartment looked normal, too normal. I walked slowly through each room. Nothing was missing. Nothing was broken. But then I saw it. On the kitchen counter sat a toy car, a little blue Matchbox car. My hands shook as I picked it up. It was cold, heavier than it should have been. On the underside, scratched into the plastic, was a single word. Mulholland, the road where Alex died. The toy slipped from my hand and clattered onto the counter. My legs gave out and I sank into a chair, clutching my chest as tears stung my eyes. This wasn't just intimidation anymore. This was a message. They were telling me they could walk into my home anytime, leave something behind, and I would never stop them. I called Mark with trembling hands. When he answered, my voice broke. They were here. In my apartment, they left me something. What? He asked sharply. A toy car with Mulholland scratched on it. There was silence, then his voice, low and steady. They're escalating, they want you terrified. But listen to me, Nyla, that means you're close. That means they're scared. Keep the car, it's evidence. I set the toy back on the counter, staring at it until my vision blurred. When we hung up, I sat in the silence of my apartment, every sound amplified, the hum of the refrigerator, the faint tick of the wall clock, the rush of my own blood in my ears. I poured a glass of wine, but I couldn't bring myself to drink it. I sat by the window instead, the city lights burning in the distance. My reflection stared back at me, pale and tired, a woman I barely recognized. I whispered into the night, Alex, they're breaking me, but I'll keep going. I'll keep going for you. I stayed there until dawn, clutching his hoodie, watching the city wake up, trying to convince myself that I wasn't already lost. I didn't go into the office the morning after finding the toy car. I told my assistant to cancel all sessions, claiming I wasn't feeling well. That wasn't a lie. I felt sick, but it wasn't the kind of sickness that could be cured with rest. It was the kind that sat in your bones, heavy and unrelenting. I spent most of the morning staring at the toy car on my counter, the word Mulholland scratched into its underside. By noon, Mark showed up at my door. He walked in without waiting for an invitation, scanning the apartment like he always did. When his eyes landed on the toy car, his jaw tightened. He pulled out a plastic evidence bag and slid the toy inside. They're toying with you, he said quietly. This isn't just intimidation, it's psychological warfare. They want you to lose sleep, lose focus, question yourself. The weaker you get, the stronger they feel. I rubbed my temples. It's working, I feel like I'm unraveling. Mark crouched so his eyes were level with mine. Listen to me, Nyla, this is the moment they want you to break. And this is exactly when you can't. You're not just fighting for yourself anymore, you're fighting for Alex, for the truth he died trying to uncover. The way he said Alex's name, steady and respectful, steadied something in me. I nodded, swallowing hard. That evening, we met Sophia at her office. She had cleared her schedule, the three of us sitting around her conference table like generals plotting a war. Papers and photos were spread everywhere, Alex's notes, the surveillance photos, copies of Leela's medical records. Sophia pointed to one of the photos, the grainy shot of Leela outside the warehouse. This ties her to the site, but it's not enough. She could claim she was meeting someone for coffee, for God's sake. We need something undeniable. A recording, a transaction, her physical presence during a shipment, something that can't be explained away. Mark nodded. We're close. Nyla has her talking. Every time she visits, she gets bolder. It's only a matter of time before she incriminates herself more directly. Sophia looked at me. Can you keep playing along with her? The question made my stomach twist. I pictured Leela's eyes, that gleam of cruelty, the way she toyed with me like a cat with a trapped mouse. I wanted to say no. I wanted to scream that I couldn't take another second of her games. But I heard Alex's voice in my memory. I'm close to something big. If anything happens, remember I love you. I'll do it, I said softly. Sophia leaned back, her expression serious. Then we build the trap. Mark, you'll set up recording equipment in Nyla's office. Nyla, you'll guide Leela into talking about the shipments, the patients, the family. Once we have that, I can use it to petition for warrants. It won't be easy, but it's the crack we need. The plan was simple on paper, but it felt like standing on the edge of a cliff with no safety net. After the meeting, Mark walked me to my car. The parking lot was nearly empty, the streetlights buzzing overhead. I hesitated before opening the door, scanning the shadows. You're safe, Mark said. I shook my head. That's what Alex thought, and look what happened. Mark's expression softened. He stepped closer. You're not Alex. You're smarter than him in ways he was, and you're not doing this alone, that's the difference. For a moment I wanted to lean into him to let someone else hold the weight for me, but I stopped myself. I couldn't afford to blur those lines. Not now. That night, when I returned home, another envelope was waiting under my door. My chest tightened as I bent to pick it up. Inside was a single photograph of me, taken earlier that evening, standing in the parking lot with Mark. My head was turned toward him, my expression tense. On the back, written in red ink, were 4 words, "He can't save you." I sank onto the floor, clutching the photo, my hands shaking violently. They weren't just watching me. They were watching Mark, too. I called him immediately. When he heard the fear in my voice, his tone turned to steel. Good, let them watch. Let them think they're winning. Because the moment they slip, we'll be ready. You're not going to break, Nyla, not now. But as I sat there in the dim glow of my apartment, staring at the photo, a thought kept echoing in my mind. They killed Alex, and now they were circling closer and closer to me. How much longer before the circle closed completely? The night before Leela's next visit, I barely slept. I lay in bed with the covers pulled to my chin, staring at the ceiling, listening to the hum of the refrigerator in the other room. Every creak of the building made me flinch. I kept thinking of the toy car, the scratch on the lock, the photo with those 4 words. He can't save you. The Alvarez family wasn't just threatening me, they were circling, closing in, enjoying the game. By dawn, I gave up on sleep and sat at my kitchen table with a cup of cold coffee in my hands. I whispered to the empty room, "Alex, if you were here, what would you tell me to do? Would you tell me to run, or would you tell me to fight?" I imagined him laughing, shaking his head, telling me I didn't have a choice. He never backed down from the truth, no matter how much it cost him. That's what scared me. That morning, Mark arrived at my office early. He carried his black bag like always, the one that seemed bottomless with equipment. He unpacked tiny microphones, pinhole cameras, wires that looked thinner than strands of hair. He moved with careful precision, checking corners, testing signals, adjusting placements. "Where, Sophia?" I asked quietly. "She'll come later once everything is set," he said. He glanced at me, then at my shaking hands. "Are you ready for this?" "No," I admitted, "but I don't think I'll ever be ready, so let's just do it." He gave a faint nod, then returned to his work. When he was done, he showed me where each device was hidden inside the lamp, behind a row of books on the shelf, in the tissue box on the table. The whole room had become a trap, and I was the bait sitting in the middle of it. Before he left, he placed his hand lightly on my arm. "Remember, you're not alone. We'll be listening in real time. If anything goes wrong, I'll be through that door." His touch steadied me more than his words. I nodded, forcing a deep breath. By mid-afternoon, Sophia arrived. She sat up in the adjoining office with her laptop and headphones, ready to monitor every sound. She squeezed my hand before she shut the door. "Keep her talking. Let her brag, that's all you need to do." I nodded again, though inside my stomach was twisting into knots. By evening, my assistant came in with that look on her face I'd come to dread. "She's here." Of course she was. Leela never asked permission. She always came when she felt like it. I told my assistant to send her in. The door opened, and there she was. Dressed in white this time, soft and flowing like she wanted to play the part of innocence. But her eyes betrayed her, sharp, glittering with cruelty. She smiled as though the room belonged to her. "My favorite doctor," she said sweetly, stepping inside. "I was wondering if you'd see me today." I gestured toward the couch. "Sit, let's talk." She glided across the room, every movement deliberate, and settled on the couch. She crossed her legs, smoothed her dress, and tilted her head like she was studying me under a microscope. "You look nervous. Did something happen?" I forced a small smile. "I've been thinking about what you told me, about Alex." Her face lit up, triumphant. "Ah. So you're finally ready to hear the truth." I leaned forward slightly. "Yes, but I want to hear it from you, all of it." She sighed dramatically, leaning back like a queen settling into her throne. "Alex was reckless. He thought he could take on my family. He thought he could protect me, but he underestimated how deep it goes. The shipments, the money, the people involved, you can't even begin to imagine how powerful they are." My pulse raced. I kept my voice steady. "Shipments? What kind of shipments?" She smirked. "Oh, Nyla, you already know, don't play dumb. Packages that look harmless. Patients who seem ordinary, medications, containers, trucks that drive in and out of warehouses at night. My family moves things in plain sight and nobody ever notices." I swallowed hard. "And you help them?" She tilted her head, her smile sharp. "Of course I did. What choice did I have? When you're born into this, you don't get to choose. You do what you're told." "But Alex," she paused, her eyes softening just slightly. "Alex made me believe I could be more. He thought I was fragile. He thought I needed saving. He was wrong." Her words cut me. My hands trembled in my lap, but I forced myself to keep my face neutral. "So you used him?" She laughed softly. "We used each other. He wanted information. I wanted protection. We were bound together by secrets. That's what you'll never understand, Nyla. He trusted me more than he trusted you." The words landed like a knife. I clenched my hands tighter to stop myself from shaking. "If you cared about him," I whispered, "why let him die?" Her smile faded, her eyes darkened. "I didn't let him die, he chose it. He crossed a line, and once he did, his fate was sealed. Nobody crosses my family and survives, not Alex, not anyone." The room felt colder, heavier. My skin prickled. "You're saying they killed him," I said, my voice barely audible. She leaned forward, her face inches from mine, her eyes gleaming. You already know they did, you just don't want to admit it. And if you keep digging, Nyla, you'll end up exactly where he is. Do you really want that? For a heartbeat, the room was silent except for the sound of my breath. I knew the microphones were recording, every word captured. I forced myself to meet her gaze. Maybe I do. Maybe I'd rather burn with the truth than live with your lies. She stared at me, her expression unreadable. Then she smiled slowly, almost admiringly. You've got more fire than I thought. No wonder Alex liked you. She stood gracefully, smoothed her dress, and walked to the door. Before she left, she turned back with that same chilling smile. See you soon, sister. The door clicked shut behind her. My body collapsed into the chair. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely hold the armrest. My throat burned with the words I'd forced myself to say. For a long moment, I couldn't move. Then the adjoining door opened. Sophia rushed in, her eyes wide. Nyla, you did it. We got her on tape, clear admissions. She tied herself directly to the shipments. It's enough to push forward. Mark followed, his expression tight but satisfied. You held steady. That was perfect. We'll make copies of the recordings tonight. This is the crack we needed. I looked at them both, barely able to speak. She admitted it. She admitted everything. Sophia put a hand on my shoulder. Yes, and now we'll use it. But you need to be ready. Once they realize you have this, they won't just play games anymore. The weight of her words pressed down on me. I looked at the empty couch where Leela had sat, her perfume still lingering in the air. For the first time, I felt like I'd struck a blow against her family. But the victory tasted bitter, because I knew it also meant the danger was about to explode. I whispered to myself, almost too quietly for them to hear. Alex, I hope I'm strong enough for what comes next. After Leela left my office and Sophia, and Mark confirmed the recording was solid, I thought for a moment I might feel relief. For weeks I had been drowning in fear, in uncertainty, in the constant gnawing paranoia that nothing I did mattered. But holding that recording in my hands, hearing her voice admitting the truth, I thought maybe I could finally breathe. The feeling lasted less than 24 hours. The first sign came the next morning when I drove into the underground parking garage beneath my office. At first, everything looked normal. The dim lights flickered overhead, my tires echoed on the concrete floor, and I parked in my usual space. I killed the engine and gathered my things. That was when I saw it. A single bullet casing rested on my windshield, polished brass gleaming under the fluorescent light. My stomach dropped. I looked around, heart pounding, but the garage was empty. I reached out with shaking hands and picked it up. It was clean, no fingerprints, just sitting there like a promise. I wanted to run. I wanted to leave my car right there and never come back. Instead, I slid the casing into an envelope and took the elevator upstairs. By the time I reached my office, my knees were weak. Mark arrived minutes later after I called him. He looked at the casing, his jaw tightening. They are sending a message. They know you got something last night. They are not guessing anymore. They are warning you. Sophia joined us soon after. She examined the casing, her face pale but her eyes sharp. We cannot delay any longer. We need to move this up the chain. If we wait, they will make good on these threats. Mark shook his head. We cannot go to the police yet. The Alvarez family has half the precinct in their pocket. If we hand over this recording now, it will disappear. We need to go higher. Federal level. But to do that, we need to show more than words. We need to connect it to physical shipments, financial trails, and ideally, to Leela herself in the middle of it. Sophia looked at me. That means another meeting with her. My throat tightened. You want me to keep inviting her back after she already admitted what she did? Sophia leaned forward. She will want to test you again. That is her nature. She will want to see if you're breaking under the pressure. That is when she will brag more. That is when she will slip further. I rubbed my temples, feeling the weight of it crushing me. How much longer can I keep playing this game before they kill me? Mark's voice was low and steady. As long as it takes to bring them down, I will not let them touch you. I swear it. That night, I went home to an apartment that no longer felt like mine. Every corner looked suspicious. Every shadow seemed to move when I was not looking. I sat by the window with the lights off, staring at the toy car on my counter and the bullet casing in its envelope. I whispered into the dark, Alex, they are closing in on me. I feel them everywhere. Tell me I am strong enough. Tell me I can do this. Sleep finally dragged me under just before dawn, restless and shallow. The next day I went into my office early before my assistant arrived. The couch where Leela always sat felt tainted, as if her presence had stained the fabric. I paced the room, rehearsing questions in my head, imagining her answers, trying to prepare myself. My hands shook no matter what I did. When my assistant arrived, she gave me a look of concern. Dr. Reed, you do not look well. Maybe you should cancel your day. I forced a smile. I will be fine, thank you. The truth was, I was not fine at all. Later that afternoon, Mark texted me from outside. He had parked in an unmarked car down the street, keeping watch. Sophia was listening from her office with the recording equipment. I was in position. Right on time, Leela arrived. She floated into the office in another pristine dress, this one pale blue. She smiled like nothing in the world could touch her. "You look tired, Nyla," she said, settling onto the couch. "Did you have trouble sleeping? I cannot imagine why." I clenched my hands in my lap. "You keep showing up. You keep talking like you want me to know everything." "Why?" She tilted her head. "Because I enjoy it. Because watching you struggle between believing me and denying me is delicious. And because Alex loved secrets. He loved chasing them. Now you get to chase me." I forced my voice steady. "You told me yesterday that your family moves things in plain sight. Packages, patients, medications. Do you feel guilty for that?" Her eyes gleamed. "Guilt is for the weak. My family built an empire on silence and shadows. The only thing I regret is trusting Alex to keep me safe." "He was strong, but not strong enough." My heart clenched. "He died because of you?" She smiled faintly. "He died because he did not know when to stop." Her words made my blood run cold. Every syllable was being captured by the microphones. I leaned forward. "If you're so powerful, why do you keep coming back to me? Why not walk away?" She studied me for a long moment, then smiled slowly. "Because I like you. You are smart and you have fire. Alex saw that in you, and now I see it too. But you should be careful, Nyla. Fire burns out quickly when there is no air left." With that, she stood, smoothed her dress, and walked to the door. Before leaving, she looked back and whispered, "See you soon, sister." When the door shut, I collapsed into my chair, my whole body trembling. Sophia rushed in from the adjoining room, her laptop still open. "Nyla, you did it again. This is stronger." She tied herself directly to Alex, to the shipments, and to the reason for his death. This is enough to escalate. Mark arrived minutes later, slipping in quietly. He looked at me, then at Sophia's laptop, and gave a tight nod. "We are ready, but once we move this forward, the Alvarez family will know, and when they know, they will strike." I pressed my palms against my eyes. "Then let them strike. I will not stop now." That night when I returned home, another envelope was waiting at my door. My hands shook as I picked it up and slid out the contents. Inside was a photograph of my parents' house. The home where I grew up. The home Alex and I once shared. On the back, in the same red ink, were the words, "Everyone you love will pay." My knees buckled and I sank to the floor in the hallway. Tears blurred my vision as I clutched the photo to my chest. It was not just about me anymore. It was about everyone tied to me, everyone I cared about. I called Mark, sobbing. "They know about my family. They are threatening them now." His voice was steady, hard as stone. "Then this ends soon. We will not let them hurt anyone else. Hold on, Nyla, just a little longer." As I sat on the cold floor with the photograph pressed against me, I whispered through my tears, "Alex, I swear I will not let them win. No matter what they do to me, I will not let them win." I did not sleep after finding the photograph of my parents' house. I sat at my kitchen table with every light in the apartment turned on, staring at the picture again and again until the image burned into my mind. It showed their yard, their porch, the swing set Alex and I had played on as children. My parents did not even know the danger that was now circling them. They thought they lived in a safe suburb far from the chaos of Los Angeles. They had no idea the Alvarez family had drawn a target on their backs. I held the photograph so tightly that the edges cut into my palms. On the back, written in thick red ink, were the words that made my chest cave in. "Everyone you love will pay." I kept whispering to myself through the night, "Not them, not my parents, please not them." My voice sounded hollow, like it came from someone else. I thought of calling my mother, of warning her, but what would I say? How could I tell her that her son was murdered in a staged accident and that her daughter was now being hunted by the same people? How could I say that a powerful family of criminals knew where she lived? I pictured her confused silence on the other end of the phone, her voice cracking as she asked me if I was safe. I could not put that weight on her. Not yet. By dawn, I gave up on pretending I could handle this alone. I called Mark and told him to meet me at Sophia's office. My voice shook as I spoke, but he did not ask questions. He only said, "I will be there." When I arrived, Mark was already leaning against the wall, arms crossed, his expression grim. He looked like he had not slept either. Sophia sat at her desk surrounded by open files and coffee cups, her hair tied back in a messy knot, her eyes sharp despite the exhaustion on her face. I placed the photograph on the table between them. My throat felt tight. They know where my parents live. They know everything. Sophia's lips pressed into a thin line as she picked it up. Her voice was cold with fury. "This is not intimidation anymore. This is escalation. They are telling you that no one is safe. They are daring you to keep fighting." Mark examined the back with the red words, his jaw tightened. They want you to break, they want you to give up before we take this further. This is fear as a weapon. I slammed my hand on the table before I could stop myself, my fear twisted into something sharper. I will not back down, I will not let them scare me into silence. Alex died for this. I cannot let his death mean nothing. Sophia met my eyes and nodded. Then we move it higher. We take this to the FBI, but we have to be smart. The Alvarez family has deep ties everywhere. Police, courts, even politicians. If we give this to the wrong hands, it will disappear, and so will we. Mark leaned forward, his voice low. I know someone, Agent Carter. He has been tracking the Alvarez family for years. He is clean. No bribes, no deals, no dirt. If anyone can move this forward, it is him. Sophia looked doubtful. How do you know we can trust him? Mark's gaze did not waver. Because Alex trusted him, and Alex was never wrong about who could be bought. Hearing Alex's name spoken that way made my chest ache. I closed my eyes for a moment, steadying myself, then whispered, "Then we go to Carter." The rest of the day was consumed by preparation. Sophia spread the files across the conference table. She highlighted sections, matched dates, created transcripts. She played the recordings again and again, pausing, rewinding, marking the time stamps where Leela admitted to the shipments to Alex to the family's operations. Mark sat in the corner with his laptop, tracing financial records Alex had left behind. He matched names, dates, and account numbers, slowly building a map of the Alvarez empire. He did not speak often, but when he did, his voice was firm. This is bigger than I thought. Alex was not just chasing drugs. He was chasing an entire network, money laundering, shell corporations, offshore accounts. They are running half the city under everyone's noses. I gathered the threats. The toy car with Mulholland carved into it, the bullet casing left on my windshield, the photographs with their red ink warnings. Each piece felt toxic to touch, but I forced myself to place them in order, to treat them like the evidence they were. As we worked, the sun dipped lower and the office windows turned into black mirrors. I caught my reflection, pale and drawn, eyes hollow with fear. I did not look like myself anymore. I looked like a woman unraveling. At one point, I drifted to the window and pulled the blinds aside. A black sedan idled at the corner of the street. It had been there since I arrived. My chest tightened. Mark came to stand beside me. He followed my gaze and muttered under his breath, "Stay away from the window." He pulled the blinds shut and checked his gun. I backed away, pressing my arms around myself. "They are already watching us, aren't they?" "Yes," he said simply, "but let them. The more desperate they get, the more mistakes they make." Hours passed before we had everything ready. Sophia created multiple encrypted copies of the recordings. Mark organized the financial leads into files, labeling each with careful precision. I tucked the threats into separate envelopes, each marked with dates and times. The table looked like the blueprint of a case that could finally bring the Alvarez family down. Before we left, Sophia placed her hand on mine. "Nyla, once we hand this over, there is no turning back. They will know, they will come harder than ever. Are you ready for that?" My heart hammered, but I met her eyes. "I have been living in fear since Alex died. I am done running, I am ready." Mark packed the files into a locked case. "We go tomorrow morning. Carter will meet us at a secure location." That night, Mark insisted I not return to my apartment. He said it was compromised. Instead, he drove me out of the city to a small safe house, a cabin surrounded by trees. The road was quiet, the air heavy with pine. It smelled of wood and dust inside, the kind of place where no one would think to look. We sat at the kitchen table under the glow of a single lamp. Mark poured us coffee, his hands steady even though I could see the exhaustion in his eyes. He never stopped scanning the windows, the door, the shadows beyond the glass. I asked softly, "Why are you still here with me?" "You could walk away, you do not owe me anything." He looked at me for a long moment before answering. "Because Alex was my friend, because he trusted me, and because I will not let the people who killed him destroy you too." The words sank into me, heavy and comforting all at once. I wanted to thank him, to tell him how much it meant, but before I could, headlights flashed across the window. We froze. The sound of an engine lingered outside, too close. Mark rose quietly and pulled his gun from the holster. He motioned for me to stay silent. The headlights vanished into the trees, but the sound of the car did not fade right away. It lingered, prowling in the dark. When the sound finally disappeared, Mark lowered the gun, but his voice was sharp. "They are close, too close." I pulled the blanket around me that night and slept on the couch. Sleep was shallow, every creak of the cabin pulling me awake again. Mark stayed near the window, watching, pacing, his eyes scanning the dark. Before dawn, I whispered into the silence, "Alex, give me strength. Tomorrow I will carry your fight to someone who can finish it. Tomorrow we will bring the truth out of the shadows. And in the quiet, I almost thought I heard his voice answering me. Hold steady, Nyla. Do not stop now. The morning air at the cabin was sharp and cold. I woke before the sun rose, my body stiff from sleeping on the couch. Mark was still awake, sitting near the window with his gun resting on the table beside him. His eyes were red but focused, unyielding. He gave me a short nod when I sat up. Neither of us spoke. Words felt useless in the heavy silence. By mid-morning, we were on the road. Mark drove while I sat in the passenger seat with the locked case of evidence on my lap. My fingers clenched it so tightly that my knuckles ached. Sophia followed behind us in her car, her laptop and backups packed in the trunk. We were heading to a government building downtown, one that looked like nothing from the outside, but housed the offices of several federal agencies. Mark had arranged the meeting through a secure channel, and Agent Carter was expecting us. I wanted to believe that. I wanted to believe we were finally about to step into safety. The drive felt endless. Every time a car lingered too long in the rearview mirror, my stomach knotted. Every time we stopped at a light, I scanned the sidewalks for faces I recognized. The city felt hostile, filled with eyes that were watching me, waiting for me to slip. When we pulled into the underground garage of the building, Mark checked every angle before letting me out of the car. He took the case from my hands and carried it himself. Sophia joined us, her face pale but determined. Inside, the building was stark and cold. Fluorescent lights hummed overhead. Security officers checked our IDs, scanned the case, and waved us through. I noticed the way one of the guards looked at me, a flicker of recognition in his eyes, and my chest tightened. Mark led us to the elevator. He pressed the button for the 5th floor. We stood in silence as the doors closed and the elevator began to rise. I heard the faint buzz of electricity and the pounding of my own heart. When the doors opened, a tall man in a gray suit was waiting. His hair was cropped short, his jaw square, his expression unreadable. He extended his hand. "Dr. Reed, Agent Carter, it is good to finally meet you." His handshake was firm. His voice carried authority without arrogance. I wanted to believe him. I wanted to believe Mark was right about him. We followed him down a hallway to a small conference room. The blinds were drawn, the table bare except for a pitcher of water and 3 glasses. Mark set the case on the table, and Sophia opened her laptop. Carter sat across from me, folding his hands. "I know this has not been easy for you. I know you have been through hell, but if what you have brought me is real, this could change everything. It could bring down people who have been untouchable for years." I studied his face, searching for any sign of deceit. "And if it is real, can I trust that it will not disappear? Can I trust that you will not disappear with it?" His eyes met mine, steady and clear. "I understand your doubt. The Alvarez family has corrupted entire institutions, but I have been after them for a long time. I do not bend. If you put this in my hands, I will see it through." Sophia slid a folder across the table. "We have recordings of Leila Alvarez admitting to her involvement. We have evidence of forged medical files, surveillance photos, and financial records that match Alex Reed's investigation before his death." Mark unlocked the case and pulled out the envelopes. Threats made directly against Dr. Reed, a toy car tied to the location of her brother's staged accident, a bullet casing, photographs of her parents' home with written warnings. Carter leafed through the files, his expression grave. "This is substantial, more than I expected. With this, we can move forward, but I need you to understand something." He leaned closer, lowering his voice. "Once this goes into motion, there is no going back. They will know. They will come harder than before. You will not just be a target, you will be the target. Are you prepared for that?" I forced myself to hold his gaze. "I have been a target since the day my brother died. I am prepared." Sophia's voice was firm. "We all are." Carter gave a slow nod. "Then let us begin." He gathered the evidence and placed it carefully into a secure folder. "I will take this upstairs. There is a task force that has been waiting for something like this. We will move quickly, but you need to stay protected. I want you all under watch starting tonight." Mark stiffened. "Who will be watching them?" "My people," Carter said simply. Mark hesitated, then gave a short nod. As Carter left the room with the folder, the silence felt heavy. Sophia closed her laptop slowly. I could feel the tension in Mark's shoulders. I whispered, "Do you trust him?" Mark's eyes flicked to the door. "I want to, but until this is over, trust is dangerous." We left the building an hour later. As we stepped into the bright sunlight, I felt the weight of invisible eyes pressing down on me. I scanned the street, the parked cars, the rooftops. For a moment I thought I saw someone watching from across the road, but when I blinked, they were gone. That night I stayed in the safe house again. The woods outside were silent, too silent. Every sound felt amplified. Mark checked the perimeter twice, his movements tense. Sophia stayed inside, typing furiously on her laptop, building backup after backup of everything we had given Carter. I sat at the kitchen table, my hands wrapped around a cup of untouched tea. My voice was barely a whisper. Alex, we gave them your truth today. If Carter is real, if he is what Mark says he is, then maybe this fight will finally matter. But I am scared. I am so scared. The woods outside were dark, but I could not shake the feeling that someone was out there. Watching. Waiting. The night after meeting Agent Carter was one of the longest of my life. I lay on the couch in the safe house with a blanket pulled over me, my eyes fixed on the ceiling. Every creak of the wood, every rustle outside in the trees made me jolt upright. I knew Carter had the evidence. I knew he was supposed to be trustworthy, but trust had become a fragile thing, fragile enough to snap in my hands if I held it too tightly. Mark barely slept either. He paced the living room with his gun holstered at his side, checking the windows again and again. Sophia stayed in the small bedroom with her laptop open, encrypting backups, sending pieces of the case to secure channels. We were a strange army, 3 exhausted people waiting for a war we could not see. At dawn, Mark stepped outside to check the perimeter. I followed him onto the porch. The air was cold and damp. Mist hung low across the ground. He scanned the tree line carefully. "Anything?" I asked. "Too quiet," he muttered. "That worries me more than noise." I hugged myself against the chill. "Do you think Carter is already moving with the evidence?" Mark nodded slightly. "If he is who I believe he is, then yes, but the Alvarez family will know soon enough. They always know." Sophia joined us a few minutes later, holding her phone. Her face was pale. "There was a fire last night, a warehouse downtown, the same one Leela mentioned in your session. It is gone, completely burned." My stomach dropped. "They are destroying evidence." "Yes," she said. "And fast, they must have felt the pressure already." Mark cursed under his breath. "That means they have eyes inside. Someone tipped them off." The 3 of us stood in silence as the weight of that realization sank in. If the Alvarez family had a source that close, then even Carter's task force was not safe from them. By mid-morning, the retaliation came directly to me. My phone buzzed with a message from an unknown number. My hands shook as I opened it. A video played on the screen. It showed my apartment in Beverly Hills. The camera panned slowly through each room, my couch, my bookshelves, my bed, then it focused on my framed photo of Alex on the nightstand. A hand reached into the frame and knocked it face down. At the end of the video, words appeared on the screen. "Time is running out." I dropped the phone, my chest heaving. They were inside. Again, they were inside my home. Sophia picked up the phone and replayed the video, her jaw tightening. "They are telling you that nowhere is safe. Not your home, not your family, not even here." Mark grabbed his keys. "We need to move. If they know about the safe house, this place will not hold. Pack everything. Now." We gathered what we could in minutes. Files, laptops, weapons. Mark drove us out, taking back roads, cutting across town, switching directions more than once. His jaw was set, his eyes sharp. "Where are we going?" I asked, my voice shaking. "Somewhere they will not expect," he said. "We cannot stay in one place. We move, we stay unpredictable." The drive was endless. Every car that appeared in the rearview mirror felt like a hunter. At one point, a black SUV followed us for several blocks. Mark suddenly turned down a side street and then another, accelerating hard. The SUV stayed with us, closing the gap. My heart pounded. "They found us." Mark's voice was tight. "Hold on." He cut through an alley, barely clearing the dumpsters, then swerved onto a main street and into heavy traffic. The SUV tried to follow but was boxed in by a delivery truck. Mark kept driving until it disappeared behind us. When he finally slowed, my body was shaking so hard I could barely breathe. Sophia reached back and touched my arm. "We are still alive. That is what matters." We ended up at a cheap roadside motel hours outside the city. The neon sign flickered, the parking lot was nearly empty, and the walls smelled of cigarette smoke. It was the opposite of Beverly Hills, and that was why it felt safe. For now. Inside the room, I sat on the bed with my head in my hands. How much longer can we live like this? Running, hiding, waiting for them to come for us. Sophia sat beside me. "Until they are taken down. You have already done more than anyone else ever has. You pulled the mask off Leela and her family. Now Carter has the proof, but it will get worse before it gets better." Mark stood by the door, his arms crossed. His voice was steady, almost too calm. "They will not stop until they think you are broken, until they think you are silenced. That is their mistake, because you are stronger than they ever imagined." I wanted to believe him. I wanted to believe that I was strong enough. But as I lay in that motel bed with the thin curtains drawn and the sounds of the highway outside, all I could think about was Alex. His laugh, his determination, the way he always believed he could change the world. I whispered into the darkness, "Alex, I hope I am strong enough to finish what you started, because they are closing in, and I do not know how much longer I can hold on." The motel room smelled of smoke and mildew. I lay on the stiff mattress with the blanket pulled to my chin, staring at the cracked ceiling. The hum of the highway outside was constant, a reminder that life kept moving somewhere out there while I was trapped in this nightmare. Mark sat in the chair by the door with his gun on the nightstand beside him. He did not sleep. He never seemed to. His eyes stayed sharp, flicking to the window at every sound. Sophia sat at the small desk, typing furiously on her laptop, headphones in, muttering to herself as she checked and rechecked the encrypted backups. I felt like a prisoner, pacing the length of the room, unable to sit still. My hands shook when I tried to drink water. My chest tightened every time a car pulled into the parking lot. In the morning, Sophia finally shut her laptop and rubbed her eyes. I managed to push everything to 3 separate secure servers. If something happens to us, the evidence survives. Mark nodded, his voice low. Good, because something will happen. They will not let us sit quietly while Carter builds his case. I swallowed hard. Do you think Carter is safe? Do you think he really can move this forward without them finding out? Mark looked at me for a long moment. I think Carter is who I believed he was, but the Alvarez family has reach. Even he cannot outrun them forever. We need to prepare for the worst. I sat on the edge of the bed, burying my face in my hands. How much worse can it get? Sophia's voice was steady but grim. Worse than you think. Nyla, you need to understand something. They are not just trying to scare you anymore. They are testing how far they can push before you break. The more you endure, the more they escalate. Her words were still echoing in my mind when Mark's phone buzzed. He pulled it from his pocket, looked at the screen, and his expression hardened. "What is it?" I asked. He turned the phone to show me. It was a photo message. The photo was of me, taken from across the motel parking lot. I was standing by the vending machine earlier that morning, looking down at the ground. The caption beneath the image reads soon, my breath caught in my throat. "They are here, they are already here." Mark grabbed his gun and checked the clip. His voice was calm but sharp. "They are watching. That does not mean they are ready to act. Not yet, but we move tonight. We cannot stay here another hour." Sophia's face paled. "Where can we go that they will not follow?" Mark looked at me. "Back to Lowe's Angels, right into the city. Sometimes the only way to hide is in plain sight." The thought of going back terrified me. My apartment, my office, every street corner felt poisoned by their presence, but staying in the motel was worse. I could feel the walls closing in, the eyes pressing closer. That night we left. Mark drove without headlights for stretches of empty highway. Sophia sat beside him, her laptop on her knees, tracking our route, making sure we were not followed. I sat in the backseat, clutching Alex's old hoodie like it was armor. As we approached the city, the lights of Lowe's Angels glowed against the night sky. I felt dread settle heavy in my chest. Coming back here felt like stepping into a lion's den, but there was no other choice. Mark took us to a warehouse near the docks, one that had been abandoned for years. He said it had been used as a safe location by law enforcement once, long before the Alvarez family spread their roots. The air inside was cold and smelled of rust, but it was dry and empty, with plenty of places to hide. We set up camp there. Sophia worked on a folding table she found in a corner, setting up her laptop and backups again. Mark swept the building, checking every door, every window, every corner. I sat on a crate, staring at the shadows stretching along the floor. My chest was tight, my stomach knotted. I whispered into the silence, "Alex, I am so tired, but I cannot stop, not now." Around midnight, Mark returned from a sweep and crouched in front of me. His eyes searched mine. "You are holding together better than anyone could ask, but I need you to listen to me carefully. They will not stop until they break you. You cannot let them. No matter what they do next, you cannot give them what they want." I nodded slowly, though tears burned my eyes. "What if they go after my parents again? What if they go after Sophia? What if they go after you?" Mark's voice was firm. "Then we fight back, together." Before I could answer, the sound of tires screeched outside. Headlights cut across the cracks in the warehouse doors. Sophia froze at the table. "They found us." Mark drew his gun, his expression like stone. "Get down." I dropped behind the crates, my heart hammering so hard I could hear it in my ears. The sound of footsteps echoed outside, slow and deliberate. Then a voice called out through the dark, a woman's voice. "Nyla, come out, we need to talk." It was Leela. The sound of Leela's voice cut through the silence of the warehouse like a blade. "Nyla, come out, we need to talk." My heart slammed against my ribs. Mark motioned for me to stay behind the crates, but I shook my head. I could not hide anymore. Leela had chased me from my apartment, my office, my own mind. She had taken Alex from me. If I kept hiding, she would never stop. I stood slowly, my knees trembling. Mark hissed, "Stay down." "No," I whispered. "This ends tonight." I stepped out from behind the crates. The warehouse door creaked open, and there she was. Leela walked inside wearing black this time, her hair loose around her shoulders. She looked almost ethereal, like she belonged to the shadows. Behind her, two men stood guard, their faces expressionless, their hands resting on their coats where I knew guns were hidden. She smiled when she saw me. "There you are, I was worried you were hiding from me." I forced my voice steady. "What do you want, Leela?" She walked closer, her heels clicking on the concrete floor. "I want what I have always wanted, control, power to watch you bend until you break. Alex thought he could save me, and look where that got him. Now you think you can destroy me? You are not strong enough, Nyla, you never were." Her words hit me like stones, but I stood my ground. "You killed him. You staged that accident. You think you can scare me into silence, but you are wrong. I have your confession, I have everything." Her smile faltered for the first time. "You gave it to Carter, did you not?" The way she said his name sent a chill through me. "How do you know about Carter?" She tilted her head. "Do you really think the FBI is clean? My family has friends everywhere. Even he cannot protect you." My stomach dropped. For a moment I thought I had lost everything. But then I remembered Sophia typing furiously at her laptop, sending backups to servers, scattering the truth where no one could erase it. "You are lying," I said. "Even if Carter falls, the evidence will not disappear. Your family cannot bury it anymore. The truth is already out there." Her eyes narrowed. "You sound so sure, but what happens when your parents are gone? When Mark is gone? When Sophia is gone? How sure will you sound then?" My voice shook, but I forced the words out. "If you kill them, the world will know. Every word you spoke is recorded. Every threat, every admission. If I die tonight, you die with me." For the first time, I saw a flicker of doubt cross her face. Her mask cracked. Mark stepped out from the shadows, his gun raised. "She is not alone, Leela. She never was." Sophia appeared from behind another crate, holding her phone up. "Everything you just said is streaming live. Thousands of eyes are watching you right now." Leela's face froze. She glanced back at her guards, then at me. Her voice dropped to a whisper. "You would not." I held her gaze. "I already did." For a long moment, the warehouse was silent except for the echo of our breathing. Then one of her guards shifted nervously. The other muttered under his breath. The confidence in the room cracked like glass. Leela's smile returned, but it was brittle now. "You think this changes anything? My family will not fall because of a recording." Sophia's voice was sharp. "It is not just a recording. It is your words, your face, tied to every operation. The world will see who you really are." Leela's eyes darted between us, calculating, searching for a way out. Finally, she stepped back, her voice icy. "This is not over. You may think you won tonight, but you have no idea how deep this goes. You cannot stop all of us." Mark tightened his grip on the gun. "Try me." She turned slowly and walked out of the warehouse, her guards following close behind. The sound of her footsteps faded into the night, leaving only silence behind. When the door shut, I collapsed onto the crate, my whole body shaking. Tears blurred my vision. "It is over. God, it is finally over." Mark lowered his gun and came to stand beside me. His voice was gentle. "It is not over yet, but you stood your ground. You did not break. That is how we win." Sophia closed her laptop and set it on the table. The live stream worked. People saw. Reporters, lawyers, even watchdog groups. The Alvarez family cannot erase this. They cannot hide anymore. I buried my face in my hands. "Alex, we did it. We finally did it." In the days that followed, the storm broke. The recordings spread across the internet. News outlets picked up the story, piecing together the evidence Sophia had planted across secure servers. The Alvarez name was dragged into the light. Arrests followed, first of the lower ranks, then of the leaders themselves. Leela vanished. No one knew where she went. Some said she fled the country. Others whispered that her own family silenced her for becoming a liability. I did not care anymore. Her power over me was gone. I returned to my apartment weeks later. The lock had been repaired, the rooms cleaned, but it no longer felt like home. The walls carried memories of fear. Still, I stood in the doorway and whispered, "You did not break me." At night, I kept Alex's photograph on my bedside table, the frame upright once more. I spoke to him in the quiet. "We brought them down. You did not die for nothing." Life moved forward slowly. I returned to work with new caution, with sharper eyes. I still helped my patients, but I never forgot how easily trust could be manipulated, how quickly a secret could turn deadly. One evening, as the sun set over the city, I walked along Mulholland Drive. The road that had stolen Alex from me now glowed with gold light. I whispered into the wind, "I miss you, but I am still here, and I will keep going. For you." For the first time in months, I felt something like peace.